Welcome to Supernatural Tales from Mammal's Front Porch, the podcast where ghost stories aren't just campfire tales, they're family tradition. I'm Heather Perrin, author, lover of haunted history, believer in the unexplained, and your host for this storytelling journey into eerie folklore, fictional frights, and true paranormal encounters from around the United States. Each week, I'll be sharing tales that are a little strange, a little spine-tingling, and maybe, just maybe, true. So grab a mason jar of sweet tea, pull up a chair, and settle in. Because here on Mammal's Front Porch, we believe the veil is just a little thinner when the sun goes down, and the stories, well, they have a way of finding you. There are some places that feel different the moment you arrive. Not necessarily frightening, not necessarily welcoming, just different. The kind of place where the atmosphere settles around you before you even step through the front door. Punderson Manor in northeastern Ohio is one of those places. Nestled among forests, rolling hills, and the quiet waters of Punderson Lake, the manor stands like something from another time. Its Tudor-style architecture, stone walls, steep gables, and grand staircase give it the appearance of an old English estate that somehow found its way into rural Ohio. During the day, it's beautiful. At night, it becomes something else entirely. Welcome back to Supernatural Tales from Mammal's Front Porch. I'm Heather, and tonight we're traveling to Newbury, Ohio, to explore one of the Buckeye State's most famous haunted locations. Punderson Manor has been featured in paranormal investigations, ghost tours, documentaries, and countless stories shared by guests and employees. For decades, visitors have reported unexplained footsteps, mysterious apparitions, children's laughter in empty hallways, and encountered the spirits believed to still walk the manor's corridors. But before we talk about the ghost, we need to talk about the land itself. The story begins long before the manor was ever built. The area around Punderson Lake was settled in the early 19th century by one of the region's first pioneer, Lemuel Punderson. He and his wife Sybil established themselves on the property and operated a grist mill and distillery. The lake and surrounding land would eventually become known by the Punderson name, a name that remains attached to the area more than 200 years later. As the decades passed, ownership of the land changed hands several times. By the early 20th century, the property attracted wealthy investors who saw potential in the scenic landscape. The most significant of these was Carl Long, a Detroit businessman who purchased the property during the 1920s. Long envisioned something extraordinary. He began construction on a grand Tudor-style mansion overlooking the lake, creating what would eventually become the centerpiece of the property. Unfortunately, fate had other plans. The Great Depression devastated countless fortunes across America, and Carl Long was no exception. Construction on the mansion stalled before his vision could be fully realized. Long lost much of his wealth, and the estate never became the lavish private retreat he had imagined. Eventually, ownership of the property returned to the previous holders before the state of Ohio acquired the land in the late 1940s. The state completed the structure and officially opened it as a lodge and resort in the 1950s. What began as one man's dream became a destination for generations of travelers. For a few years, the manor was simply a beautiful lodge overlooking one of Ohio's most picturesque lakes. Then that's when the stories began. By the 1970s, employees started reporting strange activity throughout the building. At first, it was little things: footsteps in empty hallways, doors opening and closing on their own, faucets turning on unexpectedly, objects appearing to move without explanation. Guests occasionally mentioned hearing laughter when no children were nearby. Others reported strange noises coming from vacant rooms. Individually, these experiences might have been dismissed. Together, however, they began to form a pattern. But one event would become legendary. In 1979, several employees working late at night reported witnessing something they would never forget. According to their accounts, an apparition resembling a lumberjack appeared hanging from a beam in the manor's lounge area. Witnesses claim the figure remained visible for hours, slowly swaying overhead before finally fading as daylight filled the room. The story spread quickly among staff and guests and remains one of the most famous paranormal accounts associated with Punderson Manor. Even decades later, it is still discussed whenever conversations turn to the building's haunted reputation. The identity of the so-called lumberjack ghost remains a mystery. Some believe the figure may be connected to the area's early logging history. Others think it could be tied to a tragedy long forgotten. No one knows for certain. What is known that multiple employees reportedly described seeing the same thing, and their accounts helped cement Punderson Manor's place in Ohio paranormal history. The lumberjack may be the manor's most famous spirit, but he is far from the only one. Many guests have reported hearing the sounds of children running through the hallways late at night. Tiny footsteps race down corridors. Laughter echoes from empty rooms. Some visitors describe hearing children playing just around the corner, only to find that no one there has any children. These reports have persisted for decades and remain among the most commonly shared experiences at the manor. Then there's the woman in white. Guests and employees alike have described seeing a woman dressed in white moving quietly through the manor. She is often reported near hallways and staircases. Witnesses say she appears briefly before fading away or turning a corner and vanishing. Now, her identity does remain unknown, but her presence has become one of the most enduring pieces of Punderson folklore. She could be a long ago bride or just someone tied to the land. It is quite unknown. Another spirit frequently discussed by employees is known simply as Pundy. Many believe this entity may be connected to Lemuel Punderson himself, the early settler whose name became forever attached to the property. Reports associated with Pundy often involve flickering lights, moving objects, opening windows, and unexplained disturbances that seem more mischievous than threatening. Employees who have worked at the manor for years have often share stories about strange occurrences they attribute to this lingering presence. The grand staircase is another focal point for activity. Visitors often describe feeling watched while climbing the stairs. Some report hearing footsteps behind them. Others sense someone standing nearby even when the staircase is completely empty. The feeling isn't always frightening. Many describe it as the sensation of sharing the space with unseen company. Guest rooms have produced their own collection of stories over the years as well. People report hearing conversations in empty hallways. Some wake during the night convinced someone has entered their room. Others hear knocking on walls when no neighboring guests are present. There are reports of televisions turning on by themselves, doors opening unexpectedly, and unexplained cold spots moving through otherwise comfortable rooms. Employees and visitors alike have contributed to a growing collection of experiences that continues to expand with each passing year. What makes Punderson Manor particularly fascinating is that there is no single tragedy that neatly explains its reputation. Unlike many haunted locations, there isn't one famous murder, one catastrophic fire, or one universally accepted ghost story that serves as the source of all activity. Instead, the Manor's reputation has grown from decades of experiences shared by guests, employees, investigators, and curious travelers. The hauntings seem woven into the fabric of the building itself. Perhaps that's why so many people find the manor unsettling. The stories aren't tied to one room or one spirit. They seem to exist throughout the entire property, from the guest rooms to the staircase, from the lounge to the hallways. Reports emerge from nearly every corner of the building. And then there's the lake. As darkness settles across Punderson Lake, the manor takes on an entirely different character. The surrounding woods grow quiet, reflections dance across the water. The building's stone walls seem darker, older, and more mysterious. It's easy to understand why so many ghost stories have found a home here. Whether you believe the manor is truly haunted or simply carries the weight of generations of stories, one thing is absolutely certain. People continue to experience things they struggle to explain. Decade after decade, the reports continue. New guests arrive unaware of the legends and leave with stories of their own. Maybe that's what makes Punderson Manor so memorable. It's not just a haunted building, it's a living collection of experiences passed from one visitor to the next, growing larger with every unexplained encounter. Today, Punderson Manor remains one of Ohio's most beloved and most talked about destinations. Travelers come for the lake, the scenery, the hiking trails, and the historic charm. But many also come hoping for something else. They come hoping to hear footsteps in an empty hallway, to glimpse a figure disappearing around a corner, to experience for themselves the mysteries that have lingered here for decades. And who knows, if you spend a quiet night at Punderson Manor, listening to the old building settle around you, you might just leave with a story of your own. Next week, we are going to have our final episode of Season 2. This special episode will include a couple of listener stories as well as something spooky from my own life. I hope you'll join me. Until then, thank you for spending time on the porch with me. If you liked today's episode, be sure to follow the show, leave a review, and tell a friend who loves a good spooky story. You can also find me on Facebook at Supernatural Tales from Mammal's Front Porch for more updates, behind-the-scenes fun, and the occasional eerie extra. And if you'd like to support the podcast and get access to bonus content, sneak peeks, and more, come visit me over on Patreon. I'd love to have you join me on the front porch. All of these things will be linked in the show notes. This has been Supernatural Tales from Mammal's Front Porch, and I'm your host, Heather. Keep your porch light on. You never know who or what might stop by.